they're funny.
It wakes me up, keeps me feeling good all day.
Wake up with the best.
The Morning Jumpstart on 98.7 The Coast.
It is 8:08 here on the Morning Jumpstart, and today we do have some intervals of clouds and sunshine. Expect a high of 76 for today. Right now we are at 65 in downtown Wildwood. Now, coming up in a little bit, we'll hear from Jackie Money, but we did want to address the events over the weekend. Of course, it was a sad and tragic weekend, and obviously, a lot of people have questions, and joining us this morning, and thank you for giving us the time. We have the mayor of Wildwood, Pete Byron, who is joining us here this morning. And first, your thoughts on what transpired over the weekend, and if you can give us any updates. We sadly heard about the tragedy that happened Friday, where a couple people had died. What else can you tell us? Is there any information you can give us regarding amount of arrests or things like that?
Well, let me start out by saying that our sincere condolences go out to the families of the two victims who were needlessly killed, and those also who were injured. Their lives will be forever changed. Make no mistake about it. This tragic and dangerous event over the last couple of days in Wildwood, Rio Grande, Seaville, and other surrounding areas were a direct result of this pop-up rally by this self-identified H2OI or H2OTT, whatever they go by. So, at first, we gotta do that shout out to those folks. And this was needless. There's no turning it around. This never should have happened. Mm-hmm. This was a special day. It was a special weekend between the Irish Festival and the Seafarers and the traditional, probably 35-year car event.
The classic car show, which we should clear up that had nothing to do with the events from this other group that just showed up. The classic car show went fine, but these other people showed up and caused a lot of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely, and a little history of that. From what I understand, the police were on top of this. The police were working in conjunction with the state police. They did their investigations and looked into similar events that this organization had participated in. And based on the information that the state police and our local police were able to gather, they came up with what they perceived to be a game plan, an adequate game plan, I must say, to handle the situation. Unfortunately, the situation was nowhere near to the degree in terms of the volume of participants that they had anticipated. And that's where it kind of got off track.
Well, when did you find out a little bit about this H2? Because a lot of us are just finding out about it now. A lot of us had never heard of this group and weren't ready for what they were going to be bringing here to the Wildwoods. But from the viewpoint of city government, city management, like, when did you find out about this group, and when did you find out, like, what types of their behavior, how they act when they are, at these events?
I found out last week. I only found out, I want to say it was probably Wednesday or Thursday. We found out about it, and the reason I found out about it was brought to my attention that the police were going to put out a statement saying that this was an unsanctioned event, et cetera, and that, again, everybody's welcome to come, but you got to respect their neighbors and adhere to the laws of the street, and anything else will not be tolerated. That was brought to my attention, and they asked if I would make a comment on it. So my comment would be, look, everyone's welcome to come, but I would repeat what the police chief had said. You just have to be good neighbors and adhere to the law. So I knew nothing about this. The other commissioners didn't either. And upon further review, when I did ask the chief about it, this was, I guess, that same day, Thursday or Friday, he said that the local cops, as well as the state police, were aware of this. Through social media, they found out that the event organizers had said, okay, we're going to come to Wildwood doing this classic car show. And once they found out about that, they, again, I'll repeat myself, but they did their due diligence, came up with a game plan, and to what they felt was going to be sufficient enough to cover this. And, again, unfortunate, it turned out to be probably thousands more than they had anticipated.
I was going to say, do you know from, either the police or some other people around town just how many vehicles showed up and how many people from this H2OI showed up here in town? Because apparently a lot of them have, I guess, found places to stay, and so there had to be some kind of idea of how many people were going to be showing up.
Yeah, it's hard to really, because you did have all kinds of cars in town already, so it would be hard to separate. Okay, that's a classic. That's an H2O car. It really was. Some of the H2O cars were obvious cars. You could see the way the tires were slanted inside and things such as that. But it would have been difficult to separate. But if we had a guesstimate, I would absolutely say it was well over. It could have been well over 1,000, 1,500, if not more, of the H2O, in addition to the folks that were already in town.
Well, I know some people I've seen on social media, some people just say, just arrest them all. And that's not realistic. You can't just arrest people just for showing up to an event. But I do know that the police and officials, even in some of the other towns, were finding, if there was, for example, a modification to the car that made it really loud or whatever, noise ordinances and things like that. I know they're finding ways to charge people or ticket people. But when it comes down to this, under the circumstances, what can law enforcement do? How are they able to engage with the individuals here, besides some of the things mentioning ticketing and things that were going on? Was there any other things that law enforcement could do once these people started descending onto the town?
Well, again, it's almost like you have to react to something, okay? Because you can't assume that because a car is driving down the street, it's going to do something illegal. Yeah. All right. So I got some preliminary numbers last night, and according to Deputy Chief Murphy, there was over 160 motor vehicle stops and over 200 motor vehicle summons issued, and those numbers could go up. This was as of last night. So, and with regards to noise, the cars that were here for the Classic Car Show, a lot of those cars made a lot of noise too. So, this type of a weekend where you have cars like that in town, or just like even when we had the motorcycles, there's going to be loud noises because that's just associated with the type of vehicle that you have. So, not every car that was making a loud noise was a car that was part of this pop-up car rally.
Now, from your perspective, this H2OI, they made no effort, I'm assuming, to get a permit for this event. They didn't even contact city officials or anybody regarding being here in town?
No. In fact, if it had not been picked up on social media by the police, we wouldn't even have known about it, frankly. So as bad as it was, and it was bad. It was terrible, actually. We wouldn't even have known about it if it wasn't for that. But here's the game plan at this point would be, and the game plan is Ocean City did something, right? Somehow they came up with some kind of a mechanism.
Ocean City, Maryland, I'm sorry, to make these guys not feel welcomed and not welcome back. I'm going to sit here right now and tell you that they will not be back next year. I'm going to do whatever we have to do to follow the script that Ocean City did to make sure that these guys do not come back. Now, I know once the full level of this event became apparent, there were things that you and the police tried to do. I do know, most notably on a Saturday night, I know that they had closed the George Redding Bridge for a time while things were really getting out of hand over here in Wildwood. But I wanted to know, like, the rationale behind, closing that bridge, and, what other things do you think you could do, with this group of people being here to prevent accidents from happening, prevent people from getting hurt or killed?
Well, what I personally did on Saturday was, I guess, early Saturday night when I saw that the magnitude of this was, I reached out to the governor. Personally called the governor. I told him I want the National Guard here. I want as many bodies as you can here. I don't care if you bring tanks. I want a sign of force down here in Wildwood. The governor, I actually spoke with him twice. He connected me with a couple of his lieutenants and said, give Mayor Pete anything that they need to get this under control. So at that point, I engaged with the Deputy Police Chief Joe Murphy, went over to the main headquarters where the police were, everybody was. And I said, this is the gentleman from the governor gave us. You tell him what it is that you need. And then we engaged the rest of the night with the governor's office. We got, it opened the door for a lot more of state police. Next thing you know, we had Atlantic City policemen coming in. I mean, it was heartwarming, the help that we got from the neighboring communities. I mean, we had police from Atlantic City, and then you had Middle, Lower, North Wildwood, Wildwood Crest. I mean, everybody in Cape May County, including Atlantic City, contributed. And at that point, we were able to get control. And I was there at about 3:30 in the morning. I guess around 3:30, the Deputy Chief Murphy and myself drove around town again, and we could see it would basically had totally subsided, but we had cops at every intersection at that point. And it was kind of surreal to be driving down and seeing Ocean City police cars or Atlantic City police cars or Lower, which you would have still seen that yesterday as well. Because then the next, so we got that under control, right? So then the next fear was, okay, what happens tomorrow, which would have been Sunday, when checkout is here? And we know they're still in town for the most part. We had to be geared up so that we don't have any issues the next day when they start leaving town. So we did have quite a few of the same police here at that point to make sure that everything went as smooth as it could with those folks leaving town.
What can we do? I mean, I know some of the comments I saw on social media, people were just like, well, these shame on these hotels for allowing these people to stay in town. Well, this is America. They can't refuse people service, based upon, what is your intent? You can't do that. But what can we do as a community to try to prevent something like this from happening? Is there anything else that us citizens can do here, residents in town, do to try to help assist law enforcement?
Well, I mean, again, it goes back to it's very difficult. We can't just tell someone because we don't like the way your car looks that you're not allowed to come to town, okay? What we need to do is just make it not inviting for folks. Listen, if you're a bad guy and you're going to come to Wildwood, we want that reputation to come out ahead of time that you are not welcomed in Wildwood, okay? So these type of things, they're tragic. That never should have happened. There's never a place for this. But to sit here as a Monday morning quarterback and say, well, you could have did this and could have did that, well, it's very difficult because how do you know? Yeah. How do you know when you already have all those other cars in town too that they don't commingle? And that was what the problem was too. So it was a tragedy. It's a tragedy that we will do everything in our power to not allow to happen again. And I like to say too that our Wildwood police officers and firemen, they worked overtime. It was all hands on deck. Didn't matter if you were off or you were just getting done a shift, you weren't going home and you were getting called back if you were off. So I do want to do a shout out to our local police and firemen and EMTs. Everybody did just an amazing job. We were just simply outnumbered.
I was going to say, I can tell you from experience over the weekend, I know a lot of people would back this up, that there was definitely police presence. There were, I hit a roadblock when I was leaving here Friday night, and I was like, okay, I get it. Apparently somebody must have been doing burnouts or speeding or something there where the police did have to block off Atlantic Avenue for a period of time. So I do know that the police were out there, and yes, hats off to all the other law enforcement that did come here to assist here in town. I know that I would imagine that you're looking at some of the things that Ocean City, Maryland have done. I know they created a special zone where it just basically, through whatever law they passed there for that zone, that these cars couldn't be there anymore, and now they just don't want to go there. So I don't know. Do you think maybe perhaps? I know it's it just happened, but perhaps that would be some kind of consideration.
Yeah, we're gonna now. If you can picture Ocean City, Maryland, the layout of Ocean City, Maryland is a whole lot more easier to manage than Wildwood. They only have one road. Okay, it's one north-south road. So that's a whole lot easier to manage than Wildwood that has Ocean Avenue, Atlantic Avenue, Pacific Avenue, New Jersey Avenue, Park Boulevard. And Yes, the predominance of these idiots were on Ocean and Atlantic Avenue. But once Pacific Avenue opened up, because during the day it was shut down to the classic car show, they were there as well. Okay,
Yeah.
and you get your idiots on New Jersey too. But there's more traffic lights on New Jersey, so they were kind of hanging where there was less traffic lights. So it is a little bit harder, but we're going to get copies of whatever ordinances or resolutions Ocean City passed, Maryland, and we're going to take a look at that, and then we're going to put it on steroids and make sure that this never happens again. We do not want this place to be a place that crazy, stupid idiots like this would ever feel welcomed.
Well, I appreciate you giving us a little bit of time here this morning, in a very difficult morning, very sad morning, after what was otherwise a great weekend. The other events seemed to be just fine. Up at the Irish Festival, didn't hear much about anything going on up there, and there were other events going on that went just fine, and it was just a small group of, well, idiots, as you say, because they were idiots that were here. Just creating trouble. So thank you for talking with us this morning about this past weekend.
Listen, it's always great to be on the show. It's 99% of the time we're always talking about something happy, but we'll get through this, and we're going to make sure that it never happens again.
All right, Mayor Pete Byron, thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Mark.
We will be back with more of the Morning Jumpstart here in just a moment here on 98.7 The Coast. And yes, Jackie Money will be here in just a moment too. So hang tight.
Market decline.